with Ricky, who is in North Carolina, as our first caller. Ricky, welcome.
Hey, Eddie, I called you yesterday to tell you about Dropbox and how they should have been big. I sent you a link to that song, see if you recognize it. They're a New York band. But the reason
I'll look it up in my email when I get a chance to get in there, Ricky. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir. And I actually reached out to the singer last night. He now works in a tattoo shop in New Jersey, so he's pretty easy to get a hold of now. And
okay.
Him an email, but I saw Guns N' Roses last Wednesday at their Charlotte show. It was the first night of the fall tour.
Mm-hmm.
And of all the times I've seen Guns N' Roses, this was the most underwhelming time I've seen them. And, I mean, it was not a great Guns N' Roses show, which was still better than most bands. But, like, the Axl running to his changing room 2,000 times in the show and throwing his mic stand literally 15 seconds into every song, and some guy picks it up. Then he gets it back and throws it at the next song, and his voice it just sounded like he wasn't ready. You know what I mean? But for the first time ever, 'cause I'm a huge Guns N' Roses fan, it's the first time I've ever seen him where he sounded like he was worn out at the beginning almost. And
it was Ricky. It was the first show of this next run that they're on.
Yeah, it was the first show of this fall leg of tours, and he kept saying they were working out bugs because it was the first show. I guess they had several little technical issues. But for some reason, in the middle of like 7 songs in, they had roadies come out and put carpet down on the Ego ramp, and they were out there with staple guns stapling carpet to the Ego ramp in the middle of the show. It was a weird night. It was insane. I don't know, man. His voice didn't sound as good. It sounded like I don't think he ever used tracks like the whole show. Most of the time, I didn't hear any tracks, but it definitely sounded like they tried to thicken his voice up on song off Chinese Democracy. I don't remember which one it was. It might even been like Chinese Democracy, but it was one of those songs that sounded to me like they were trying to thicken his voice up. It was a very off night, and they said as much, about, we're working out bugs, and that's fine, but I feel like when I pay the kind of money I had to pay to sit in the upper level, like, you should have it together before, like, I should get a first night discount. You know what I mean?
No, Ricky, I don't mean to laugh, but you're right in that regard, because it's like, and thanks, Ricky, for the call. There are a lot of bands throughout history that start tours intentionally in smaller markets, because the bright lights of the big market and the amount of media that's there and the amount of tension that's going to come from playing a big market, you want to work out all the kinks and make sure you're up and running and in fighting shape when you get to the big cities, because in the big cities you have a chance of a much bigger spotlight and more people and more attention on that show. But Ricky brings up a great point. Well, not everybody, like sometimes in the bigger markets, the tickets are more too, but yeah, with the ticket prices where they're at, bands really should have a certain level of consistency, no matter if it's the first night or the 50th night of a tour. Because now there's a flip side of that. If you're the 50th night of the tour, the guys could be tired, or if they're younger, they could just be hitting their stride. It's really case by case. I think it's going to be really fascinating, and I've said this, to watch where Guns N' Roses goes now. Because, yes, there's still a lot of excitement about Guns N' Roses. Yes, they are still going to headline shows, and yes, they are still going to headline festivals. But it's been going for a few years now. And there is no new music in the marketplace currently, and there is nothing to really spike it, and people who have gone paid a lot of money to go. So when Slash was on the show not too long ago, he had said that there's this run that they're doing now, and then he said something like there might be one thing in March, and then we're pretty much done for a while. So it's going to be really fascinating to see what the long-term deal is with GNR. And I said this from the day this reunion launched. We still really don't know what this is. We know it's a massive touring juggernaut that was the biggest reunion tour of second or third of all time, or tour of all time. So we know that. That's been established. And that's remarkable. But where it goes from here, now we're at the point in this timeline where I think it's going to be really interesting. Does it dwindle and quietly sort of go away, except for a special event or two a year? Or do they actually become a fully functioning band, meaning make new records, go out there, and does Axl start doing interviews? Does it become something like, most bands operate? To me, it doesn't feel like it's going to, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I'll see them actually next weekend because they are one of the headliners of Exit 111. So I'll get a chance to see them. But here's the problem, too, that you have if you go into that mode where we play once or twice a year. Okay, that's great because it makes it an event when you play. The downside of that is you've got to be in shape to do it. You have to be physically in shape, vocally in shape. Your chops have to be there. You have to be rehearsed. Because a GNR show now is a far cry from the Appetite years where it's plug in 2 guitars, a bass, and go. It's a much, much more elaborate production. Extra musicians on stage. It's a big operation. So to just sort of sporadically do 1 or 2 or 3 like that a year across the board is a big undertaking, takes a lot of prep. It'll be real interesting to watch where this goes from this run. And according to Ricky, it had a little bit of a choppy first night there. And Ricky brings up a valid point, If you're paying the same amount of money, and I don't know what's going on and on about ticket prices is just, we can talk about that forever, but we have seen and the market fluctuation. If you don't need to go to a show that badly and you can wait till the last minute to buy tickets, it is clearly being shown that you will get tremendous deals 95% of the time. I had friends that went to see Hart and Joan Jett in an arena in Tulsa the other night. I had people email me this, by the way, who were also at that show. A photo. There was a huge section of the floor seats completely open during the show. And a big section, the upper level was virtually closed. And somebody sent me a screen. Because here's the thing, folks. There's full transparency now in ticketing because anyone can go on Ticketmaster. Bands can spin stuff however they want about their draw or attendance, but anybody can go on the Ticketmaster grid and see what has really been sold. For instance, anybody could have pulled up the Ticketmaster grid, which someone sent me a screen grab of the postponed Kiss show at the Staples Center and shown that in a 20,000 seat arena, there were about 2,000 tickets sold a week out or a couple weeks out. Just like somebody sent me a screen grab of the Ticketmaster grid of that Hart Joan Jett show where floor seats were going for $9.95 a day or two before the show. $10. That's why when you go on Ticketmaster now, you have to check that box that says you're willing to deal with the fluctuating prices. Because imagine if the guy next to you spent $9.95 and you spent $300. It's happening every day. And it's not shit talking. It's not making anything up. It's there in black and white on the ticket buying websites. So as a ticket buyer, work it to your advantage. If that's, if the tickets are crazy and all that. It's 9 times out of 10, sure, you're always going to have the super hot show where it's not going to drop, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to find a deal. And you don't have to go to the corner and talk to Joey working the street corner anymore. You just got to go right on the official selling sites. Because the ticket prices are moving all over the place. It's a whole nother conversation. We've covered that, but it's fascinating to watch. And it's fully transparent.